Welcome back to Horrifically Well Read, Bled, and Said. Tonight, we are so excited to talk to the author of My Lips, Her Voice, L.L. Madrid. Welcome.
Hello, thanks so much for having me.
I'm so glad you're here. I got to read your book several months ago as an ARC, and I reached out to Will at Creature, and I was like, okay, I'm like obsessed. Um, it is such a cool premise, so I would love to hear how you tee it up, and then I'll share a little bit more about kind of how I would describe it, and then maybe Adam too, because I know you just recently
Yes, I
finished it.
did. Yeah.
So how would you set it up, Elle?
Well, let's see. I just recently went to the Tucson Festival of Books, so I was practicing pitching. So
You've
I'll
got
give
it
you
down, don't you? Okay, great, great.
yeah. So My Lips, Her Voice is a possession murder mystery about two very different girls fighting for control over one body. We have our main character, Audrey. She is shy, anxious, and considerate to the point where she lets her dead cousin possess her. And when she finally kind of gets the strength to where she wants to get rid of her cousin, Mara doesn't want to leave because she really wants to know who killed her. And she's hell bent on revenge. And she'll use Audrey if that's what it takes.
I think you did an amazing job, honestly, like, that's enough that, you're gonna pique interest, but it's so cool because prior to being a horror reader, because I was thinking horror was just one thing, I was like, "I'm not gonna read anything about possession." It, like, just scared me too much, and so reading your book, I was like, "Okay, I this is" like, you have to say possession because it is, but she's basically the way you said it, they're fighting over one body, and, like, she'll stand in front of the mirror, and she'll, like, see her face moving and her lips going, but it's like, it's not her talking. It's the cousin, but they're like she's communicating to her, for a lot of it too, and so it was just really fun to watch them dominate one body and try to solve this murder.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was fun writing those scenes because I was just thinking of, Mara's kind of like the pushy, bossy cousin that we all had a sibling or someone in our life like that who
Mhm.
tries to control things and she just takes it an extra step.
No, I love that because it's almost like a haunted house story, but the haunted house is a person
Yeah,
still alive. you know?
right? Right? That's a great way to it's a I love that you said that because it is something so extra than what it actually is. It's like you're right, it is like that, and I found it fascinating that you know, they weren't like close cousins, they
hmm
kind of like don't have a great relationship. And so, which is kind of like that's where that bossiness comes in. I'm like, I don't really give a shit.
Yeah.
I'm gonna inhabit you because I'm figuring this out.
Well, I love it too because like Mara's like just as unhappy that it's Audrey that she's inside. Where Audrey's like, "Oh, man, my damn mean cousin's inside me," and Mara's like, I gotta be inside this wimp. Come on.
That's hilarious.
I love that they're such complete opposites and, Audrey, unfortunately, I'm a wimp and not cool like her. So she has this like anxiety and wanting to people please, and Mara's the opposite. And I'm like, that would be the worst person to have like trying to control
Right?
you.
Uh,
Because like she's gonna bulldoze through everything and probably push every comfort level and every boundary,
mhm.
and yet you're just stuck doing it.
Yeah, it's my personal nightmare.
I was
I
just gonna
don't care
say
about the ghosts.
it's its own nightmare for sure.
It's so funny too, and like I wanna get into a lot of different things, but one of the things that really struck me is like this idea that like Mara's doing her life better than her at sometimes, you know what I mean? Where it's like Audrey's like, "I just wanna bake stuff and that everything," and Mara's like, "No, it's time to live." It's like, "I already have a very complicated but girlfriend relationship there," and all of these things, and it's like,
To which
as
she's
a
like, "I hope you don't mind. I
yeah.
hope you don't mind dating a girlfriend."
But it's very much like, I don't know, as I was a very introverted person at this age and, didn't really go and do a lot of things, and I think that's one of those, like, fears that I would have, in a situation like this that it's like, everyone likes this person that's really not me more than they liked the actual me, and I love how you explore that.
Thank you. It was a really fun dynamic.
Yeah, absolutely, and so, one thing to start off with, I just love the setting of your story and wanna hear, like,
Yes.
does that come from I know you're, in Arizona, so, like, there's probably similar towns to this, and, like, just that whole idea of, like, this sort of, like, ghost mining, gold rush kind of town that is really so based on tourism now, it just was fascinating to me.
Absolutely. So, one of my little quirky hobbies living in Arizona is like visiting random ghost towns. And we have
Sounds like a
all these.
wonderful hobby.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's a blast. And we have this particular town came to me on a trip to Bisbee, which is this fun, it was a former mining town turned artist colony. But en route to Bisbee is Tombstone, famous for, "I'll be your huckleberry," and, the shootouts, and that town, it is so kind of like this lovely, tacky tourist thing where you have everybody who lives there, not everyone, but a big chunk of the townspeople actually they spend their 9 to 5s getting dressed up like cowboys and walking around in the hats, and so they all kind of inhabit this make believe thing. I stopped there and I saw this teenage girl dressed in like the full, like, saloon girl outfit. I'm like, this is either like the worst after school job or the best after school job you could have, depending on your personality. And it
Yes.
started getting me thinking about like the lives of the people who lived there and just kind of left it at that. But 20 minutes up the road is Bisbee, and you climb into the mountain. So you have a whole different elevation. It's like kind of going into a different world, but, it's the same age and town, and I started combining those 2 towns in my mind. I love history, and I find personally the best way to consume history in different towns is to take their ghost tours, because then you just get
Absolutely.
the local lore, and I was just slowly adding these things in, and so that's kind of the birth of Copper City was those 2 towns, and then I stole
That's
bits from
awesome.
others.
That's awesome. I completely agree with you about the ghosts, though, because our town is kind of sandwiched in between two very touristy cities, Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, which
Yeah.
is a ton of ghosts, and Lancaster, Pennsylvania, which also has a fair amount of ghosts. I just took the ghost tour of Lancaster last spring, and there's history that I didn't know about people that have been named and how, I mean, you've always heard the names, but you're like, oh my God, they are such bastards. Like, how did I not know this? And like, I mean, obviously, like in this particular, when we're out in the Northeast, there was so much that was done with Native Americans that it just wiping away the tribes, which is heartbreaking. But I did not know that, these places there, they're just actual massacres. And recently, I guess within the last couple of years, they actually found remains when they were doing a parking garage and they made them stop and wait. But there's so much more than you realize. I think it's probably really important because you realize some of the people that are celebrated or should not be, never
Mhm.
should have been. Like their names are on some of the streets and, they just have this positive thing and then you're like, "Oh, wow." So, I really enjoyed that, and the Gettysburg one, I mean, that battle's crazy, so I think you can take several different kinds. You can also do like that I don't know if you know anything about there's like a wicked orphanage out there where someone, like, abused a lot of children, and they offer that too, and I'm like, "I'm good." I'm sure Adam would take that tour, but not me
The
because
the darker the better for me. Yeah, so
I'm a weenie, so no, but I love the fact that you go around and collect that. So, not only is it for story writing, but I think it's probably just a really fun hobby. Do you have anybody that regularly, like, will join you?
But yeah, usually I take my husband, we go to he's my regular companion for these things, but I drag anyone who wants to go on a spooky tour because we just have a lot just within a few hours. And I'm
Wonderful.
I'm always looking for new ones. So I'm like, ooh, Gettysburg does sound pretty
yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah, come on out. Just try out. I think we should start, like, a potential drinking game right now for how often we get to say, "It's a dry air," but it's a dry
Oh, for Arizona.
Yeah, it's
Humidity
just
that kills you, right?
yeah, it dries good. It's just like an oven.
Exactly.
Well, I was wondering, is, the in your book here, there's the really, like, creepy so there's kinda, like, 2 legends, one more recently and one in the past, but that, like, Bleeding Jasper, is that, like, an amalgamation of different stories you've heard? Like, where does that come from?
You know, that one was just kind of like picking and choosing, making up my own. I'm like, miners, like old-timey pictures of them, they kinda look creepy, like, they're malnourished and just very jaunty angle, and they have, like, pickaxes and stuff. I'm like, that would be a good, villain and to have a legend by, and I think At the time, I was reading about H. Holmes, and that was in Chicago in the same kinda time period. I'm like, "Well, what would the Southwest version of that be?" And I'm like, "Oh, it'd be a creepy miner."
Yeah, I love that, and especially, like, no spoilers, but later on, you kind of get a little bit more graphic of an idea of what he was up to, during his time, and I'm just like, "Holy crap." Like, that's kind of funny that you say that with H. Holmes, because that's, like, definitely, like, the images that came to mind of, like, just how brutal it was, but then the sheer number of people, you
And for
know?
those of us who don't know who H. Holmes is, do you wanna explain that?
You wanna take that
Well,
one?
it's been a while, but I think it was during the Chicago World Fair, so nobody fact check me. Um,
Yep, yep.
No, Adam will happily do
Oh, no, no, no.
that.
I'm sure you know more than I do, but aside from it, the horror of it.
he, was a very prolific serial killer who also I think he employed multiple building contracts, and I can't remember if it was a hotel he ran, but he was having secret chambers, like, built into
Wow.
his resident or so he could kill people, hide the bodies, disappear them, and then, he'd kill the contractors too, so they
Yeah,
couldn't say where his secret rooms were. Like, cartoonishly evil, but he was a real person, so it's just like
Wow. So he could
because
be
like,
like
we're
he could be
talking
like
about, like, dozens, even hundreds, like, they
wow.
think he might have killed within a pretty short
So is
time
he, like,
period.
having, the contractors, like, task of a macchiato themselves? Like, "Hey, go build this and never
pretty
leave.
much.
I just, like,
Yeah,
enclose you here."
yeah, and then during the time it was the World's Fair, so you had people coming in from all over, so it was
Mhm.
really easy to disappear people because
And then
it's
From
they're not they just think they got lost
lots of
or it's not
transients,
anybody
yeah,
yeah, I was gonna say nobody that's, like, super local. Okay.
Yeah, it's you're not gonna notice they no their family, it's like, "Oh, they traveled, it takes a week to get there, and they haven't come back, they must have stayed longer," and it's all this, it just made it really easy.
Perfect
yeah.
setup. Wow.
And then on top of that, you have this just absolutely horrifying, tragic school bus
Yes.
accident that's happened. And, that it's happened. I'm trying to think, it's maybe what, 30 years or so
Mhm.
in the
Yeah.
past or more. And
Because it's
the
another
way,
generation.
yeah, and the way that it's sort of reverberated through like this town and almost like all the families in one way or another are touched by it. It's really like a fascinating way to sort of go into the psyches of generations because it's kind of carried on through the generations of whether you were related to the person that was a part of it,
Some
a
of it.
victim of it, or that kind of stuff. So that was really interesting.
Yeah, there's a giant the copper pit is in Bisbee that I remember staring at it and just thinking, "How horrible would it be if someone drove down, like, there's no way you'd survive," and then
Oh,
I like to think of
So,
the
like,
worst case scenarios.
I was gonna say, like, so you basically are led by your intrusive thoughts
yeah,
to write your book.
100%. That's
Okay.
I have really bad anxiety, but I also feel like my anxiety, I'm like, "Oh, no, it helps me because 'cause I'm prepared for every eventuality," because I have
Feel like you just met
imagined
your best friend, Adam?
yeah.
You met a best friend?
There is no restaurant or store that I go into that I'm not, like, clocking every person in there, every exit under like, I have to position where I'm watching everything. Yeah, it's like, if anything happens, I know exactly where I'm going, what to do. I'm like, "That person looks like they're mad, so I need to keep an eye on" all those things.
and it serves me well. Theoretically, I'm like, I have no crazy things have happened to me, probably because I've thought them through, you know, theorize it will only be something I'm not expecting that could happen. So,
Yeah, absolutely, but you know what? It's like you see those through and you put them in the book, and they're very entertaining and creepy, so I appreciate that. One thing that I found really interesting, and as someone that has lived on the East Coast and the South my whole life, I have never thought of Arizona or the West as having the woods like your
Right.
book has in it, that they go out in the woods all the time. So, like, just want to hear a little bit about like that kind of experience in the West. What are the woods like? And I love that you made them such a central part of this book.
so I love the idea of woods. And so where I'm in Tucson, we don't really have anything like that. We have like, people will call it, oh, there's a big tree, but we're surrounded by mountains and Arizona is a very mountainy place. So when I was combining part of the reason I combined Bisbee and Tombstone is because I love the Wild Westness of Tombstone, and then Bisbee is higher elevation, and, it doesn't quite have, like, the woods of, say, Flagstaff or Payson, but these are
Okay,
other, little quirky towns that I'm just like, I'm gonna take bits and make the elevation
there you
does
go.
not necessarily check with all my plants in desert because I literally made up my own town with all my favorite Arizona things. So that was like kind of I stole those woods probably from Flagstaff area and I stuck them on the edge of Bisbee.
I love that you kind of like chose bits and pieces, and it's interesting because like as we're sitting here thinking about the woods, I'm like, okay, so this is not a deciduous forest. This is going to be a carnivorous, you know. But then I have shared before that I love the show Sister Wives, and after
Yes.
they moved out of Las Vegas, they moved to Arizona in the Flagstaff area, and they had this whole fight over whose house would be close to the trees and in the woods, and get to enjoy that. And then
So you were aware of this
so
while it's
that's what I'm
okay.
saying, but I think you wouldn't normally think that
Yeah.
because that was the only reason why I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." The other thing, and just like a complete and total aside, it is really stressful to me to think about having to bake or cook anything in a higher elevation. Like, I was just baking brownies the other day, they were like, "For higher elevation, add another, like, whatever, half cup of flour or something." I'm like, "You gotta be shitting me." Like, okay, I'm used to doing it East Coast style. So, I mean, do you have to deal with that?
You know, don't tell anyone, but I don't really bake. I just eat like baked goods, so I usually just follow what the box says. So where I am, the elevation's not super high, but that's good to think about because I didn't think about it for Audrey. So she probably did have to adjust for her various baking, especially when she was getting more into the meringues and those fancy souffles and things that would fall.
Thing, right? And then you think about what's that stupid movie that I made you watch?
Oh god, what?
The So Because I Said So, and it's like with
Oh.
Mandy Moore, and she's like, "The souffles are ready," and she's like, "How do you?" She's like, "I feel it. I feel it."
Audrey could feel it. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how I'm thinking about it. She knows. Okay, Winston, that's enough.
But there is a really great bakery in Bisbee called, I think it's Jacques or something French, but they literally sell out like 30 minutes after they open because
Wow.
they won one of those like what is it, James Beard, one of those fancy
Yes.
like yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it is the fanciest little bake shop. Everything's pink and there's a little
Cool.
window and you order it's so pretty and everything like you don't wanna eat them because they're so delicate and beautiful. And I'm like, that's what Audrey would make
I
and what
believe
I'll eat.
you. Yes. So here's the question. So now we know when we come out in trouble, we need to take ghost tours. Now we need to go to the bakery. What are we ordering? What are you
Ooh, so the last time we went, we got some, like, truffles, and they
cool?
literally look like glass, we got a really amazing lemon bar. There was nothing that we got that was not phenomenal, so I think you just order everything that you can, and which is everybody in this there was a line 30 minutes before it opened, and the last time I went, and it was 104 degrees, which was really hot for Bisbee because usually you go up the mountain to get cooler.
But it's a
But
dryer.
yeah, it's a dry, but so we all just, like, stood in line and people are getting these huge boxes of things, and I'm like, "There better be something by the time we get up there."
Right. Do you
So,
Oh.
just go up and just like be an asshole and just be like, I'm ordering as much as I want because, I had to wait out here this long and who
I thought
cares?
about it, but we got ours and then I'm like, "Oh, this is plenty for 2 people," and then we're, like, eating, and then we're like, "We should go back," and they're sold out of everything,
That's
That must be kinda sweet for, like, the store, though. They're probably hoping, like, "Hey, we can go home after we" it's pretty
right?
nice. I'm sure they're up to those bakers, it's crazy when you think about how early they're
that's
working for
true.
But
stuff.
in Arizona, people tend to get up earlier just to, like, beat the heat, like,
Oh,
you wanna get up as early as possible because, by, like, 7, it's already really hot, so baker's hours aren't that bad here.
so are we talking like normal, like people that aren't bakers are doing like 4 a.m.?
Like, if you're somebody who exercises, like, if you jog outside, you're gonna definitely wanna start, your jog at least by 5 AM at the latest because by the time the sun's up, it's getting hot.
Well, I feel fortunate that I'm not gonna do that. I am gonna go to the bakery, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be I'll jog
I feel
my
like that's the thing, I'm gonna sweat in line waiting at the bakery.
exactly, it's
Doesn't
like a
that count?
sauna, that you lose weight from that,
It's
so
a dry heat.
it's yeah,
But
exact
you don't sweat, which is dangerous because it's so hot it evaporates right off you.
Oh
Then,
my god! Are you
yes.
being serious?
I'm totally being serious. So
you're
that's
like
dangerous. You
independent
don't
little water cycles within your own, like, system
Yeah,
there.
because you don't even realize how hot you are because you're staying dry because it's literally sizzling o your sweat sizzling off before it can, like,
That's
pool
crazy.
anywhere. Yeah.
What an
So,
image.
I visited out west when I was 9, and it was at this weird time that they had this, like it was some kind of, like, a week-long sickness or, like, the flu or whatever. In fact, we were supposed to be out for 2 weeks, and I got so sick, but I remember I was able to make it to one of the ghost towns, but then we were somewhere, and they stuck me on a bench so the rest of the family could, like, enjoy it. I was
Oh,
so sick, I've been vomiting, and I'm under, like, one of those shade tents with the sprayers, like, with the water sprayers. I I
yeah.
think I think I made out with that because they were out there in that damn dry heat.
That feels very Audrey coded, like, that would be
Listen,
something
my
that would have
parents didn't
happened to
give a
her.
shit. We spent a lot of money on this. You're gonna have to lay out here and just vomit around the visitors, honey.
Yeah,
Uh, which would suck because I really wanted to check it out, but I think I didn't actually get the full, like, breadth of just how hot it is, but I'm so affected by the heat, so that scares me because, like, I already wear a hat everywhere and, like, do the water cooling towels, whatever, but Adam has always, like, professed that he's just, like, a really efficient heating system because he sweats so easily, like, from his face and head and whatever, so you'd be shit out of luck, dude.
yeah,
You'd have to, like, I don't know what, actually be responsible.
Drink a
no,
lot of water.
no.
That's why I'm like, I always keep, like, the hydration packet. Do you do that? Do you have to, like, pre-pack your hydration packets in your water and stuff?
I think I've lived here too long that I'm just part like, I just chug water wherever you go. You carry it around. It was when I did the Festival of Books, it was in March, but it's already getting hot.
Okay.
It's a really big outdoor event, and I was one of the author panelists, and I think the volunteers were told to watch out for authors and make sure they're drinking water. I was weirded out how often people were just shoving water at me, and then I'm like, "Oh, they don't know I'm from here," because I'm like, "Of
Well,
course I'm drinking a lot," but people were, like, fainting, and it was, like, 80 degrees. I'm like, "Babies," but,
that would definitely be me. I already
yeah,
like, I just ever since I was, like, a little kid, and once it gets
yeah.
too hot, I'm like, I'm having a great time, then all of a sudden I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna throw up," and then I'm losing consciousness.
I mean, to be fair, we don't really go outside unless we have to during the really hot seasons, and we have really amazing winters because, it's like 70 and just
Mm.
perfect weather like during December, November.
You guys have a lot of you have, like, the rains that come through too, right?
Yeah, we have the monsoon season, which is it's nice. It's probably mid-July through early September. When I was younger, it used to be like clockwork. We'd have a giant thunderstorm that would last an hour from like 5 to 6. Now they're not
Really?
as Oh yeah, it used to be you just knew what time it was gonna rain.
Wow.
Now it's not we don't get the kind of monsoon seasons we used to get, but the best thing about monsoon season, we have a plant called creosote, and when it rains here, it smells phenomenal because it's like this soapy, like, clean smell from the plants.
The one that you use in the fireplace, the creosote sweeping logs?
I don't know if that's the same. It's like a bush that has, like, kind of like a fresh soapy scent, so
I'm
I
gonna
don't
look it up.
Yeah, it's the
But I think
Sonoran
that's
rain.
I bet that smells amazing
Yeah.
because, like, if anybody who already likes, like, the petrichor smell,
Mm.
Yeah, because when I go elsewhere, like, outside of the Southwest and it rains, I'm like, "Why does it not smell like"
where's the good
Right.
smell?
Oh, that's gotta
Yeah.
be so
So it's
disappointing.
a hardy evergreen shrub iconic to the Mojave, Sonoran, Tualatin deserts of the Southwest, known for its distinctively earthy so I need to go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Look, tomorrow is our 20th wedding
it
anniversary, and
is.
I've wanted to go out west again, so and I was like, "Where exactly do I wanna go?" I need to go smell this.
Yep,
Yes, congratulations. Yeah, come in the rainy season.
yeah.
Thank you.
So August.
Well, okay, so maybe not quite August, but we do get rain in the winter, like in, February it rains. So We have certain times a year, and then if you just find a bush and pour water on it, you could smell it.
Oh, yeah, there you
So
go.
I feel like that could be part of your your next book because apparently the creosote can live for thousands of years with
Oh,
some clonal colonies being among the oldest living organisms.
I
And
did
they
not
can
know
also
that.
inhibit the growth of other plants nearby for through root mediated chemical interaction. So they could be a little violent. I think that could be a wonderful story.
yeah, that's
Uh,
very interesting.
just start thinking with your OCD of like intrusive thoughts.
Yeah.
What would be the
It's
worst
like
case scenario? And we'll have you on for the next book.
yeah, yeah, I do love plant horror, so that would be fun.
Yeah,
Right? Oh, I was actually gonna do a post the other day of all my favorite plant things. I think
flower
you can
looks
do it.
good.
But your writing ability is so I just wanna say delicious. Like, it was just really easy to just, um I mean, I was like, "I don't wanna stop reading this." Like,
Yeah,
I want to keep going, and it was just like, there's so I was, like, trying to guess the twist and trying to guess, like, where is this gonna come in? Who actually is the murderer? And you did like, there's so much character development
that's what I was
and
gonna say is it's definitely because, like, every character in this book is very three-dimensional and complex.
yes,
And at any given and it's not like the heavy-handed red herring kind of feel. It's just that there's so many, like, different reasons why one or another person may be doing things that are maybe darker. And then, even with someone like Audrey and, Mara and Zadie, like these are all really fascinating characters. No one is perfect, and you don't turn away from that. It's okay when the characters are a little messy because it makes them a lot more human.
they
And
are so relatable,
I'm trying
yes.
yeah, and so, like, as you're writing this and coming up with these characters, and I think of, like, Zadie's mom especially too, and, these people, like, was that really something that you focused on to say, like, "I want these to be, like, lived in, really real people?"
Like, I wanted to have they're older teenagers, but they're at that age where you just really are messy and kind of discovering yourself. And one of the things, like, I always think about it, how it's tragic when somebody dies kind of mid their asshole phase like
Yeah.
Mara, because I think she would've when I wrote the grandmother's character, like,
Mhm.
her personality is actually a combo of the 2 girls,
Right.
because I like to think that Mara would've, like her rough edges would have evened out, and Audrey would have get take on more of, like, that power, and so eventually they would become, like, more whole, but when you're, like, this, 18 years old, you're still finding yourself and your place in the world and learning where to balance, like, am I being selfish? Am I being cruel? Or am I, you know, being ambitious? So trying to come up with, like, how when you're first navigating the world and as a fresh adult or late teen, I think there's a lot of really good material there because, yeah, when I think about myself at that age, I'm like, I did not know what I was doing. It's so messy.
Well, one of the things that I found really fascinating is this kind of, like, love triangle between Zadie, Rhea, who's, like, the sheriff or chief of police's daughter, um, and Mara, and essentially, obviously it gets maybe further less I don't know if it's less or more complicated once Mara, has died, but, like, the fact that kinda Zadie has to come to with terms with the fact that, like, she really did enjoy Rhea's advances and flirt even while Mara was alive, and, like, the guilt that comes with that because, Mara was kind of in her asshole phase, and it was hard at times, and Rhea kinda represents that person that wasn't hard and seemed to really just really like Zadie, period, and there was no complications there, and the way that you kind of explore that on all sides, I think really is so, honest to a lot of people's experiences with those relationships at that really, like, emotionally fraught time in their lives.
I think, yeah, it's, teenage relationships. I mean, even adult relationships, there's always like this complexity, especially when you're with somebody that maybe they were the right person early on, or you've grown apart, or you've just changed, or, who meets somebody when they're a teenager that ends up, forming a lifelong connection. It happens, but it's definitely not, the standard. So that was it was fun to explore their relationship, and I liked Zadie a lot, just, kind of torturing her with that, she's like, "Well, Mara's dead," and having that guilt about it too, it's that extra layer.
And I love that too because it's like when Zadie is sort of like, because so many people would be like, "Oh, this is unbelievable. I don't believe," all that kind of stuff. But when Zadie, talks to Mara and Audrey, she's like, "Holy shit, that's her."
Right.
Like she can recognize it because of how close they were, and I love that that immediately sort of like once Audrey is willing to, reveal that to her, that it lends that sort of. I think a lot of times in books and stuff like this, especially, there's that like extended. No one believes it, and I love that because how close they are, you're able to sort of circumvent that so that we can get to some more of the meat with it, more quickly.
Yeah, I liked the idea that even though they were, like, breaking up and having all these issues, they did have that history and, they're that person where, you almost have a secret code word where if someone's impersonating you, I'm gonna figure it out because we know each other as well as we know ourselves. So that was a fun dynamic.
Yeah. I love also that kind of because of everything that's going on, in the town, because Mara has been murdered. Obviously, that's like the central thing. And now another girl is missing, who happens to be the principal's daughter, that they're thinking there's the kind of this timeline that they need to find her before she is the next victim. But all these things are going on. And within that, Zadie not only is faced with the, you know, possessed ghost of her former girlfriend, but she's kind of learning things from her past too that she probably would have never found out if these things weren't going on, and I love this idea of sort of like I think that she's aware that her mother's not perfect, but kind of learning things and stuff about her past also, that exploration of sort of at that time finding out and realizing your parents not only aren't perfect, but maybe aren't super making great decisions themselves, right?
Yeah, that's always the fun realization that it's like, "Oh, your parents are humans, and sometimes they mess up real bad."
I know it's funny being on both sides of that now, right? Because think about our parents and now, we're parents, we have a 23-year-old and a, 13-year-old that it's like, they're probably gonna be learning those things about us sooner than later too, or already
I think we
saying them.
told them early on.
Yeah, so it's like,
Sometimes
that
Annabelle will say, like, "I know this is your first time living, just like it's mine." Okay, good. I'm glad you get that.
No, my 14-year-old has, like, called me out about things. She's like, "Well, I understand you were upset, but you could have handled that better." And I'm like, "Okay, thank you."
why are you the mature one right now? Like, what's happening
That's
here?
because that speaks to how well adjusted, like,
Yes.
genuinely it is, that is not what our life was like with, like, our boomer parents. You know
No.
what I mean?
No.
Not at all. And I think sometimes Adam and I, we privately, like, tantrum, will be like, "How come we had to deal with all that shit and
Yeah,
shut
we
our
get it on
mouth,
both sides.
and now we gotta shut
Yeah.
our mouth again?"
Right? No, yeah, 'cause, when we were kids, it's like you just
They would
what
say,
your parent
when you have
yeah,
your own house, when you're raising your kids, you can do what you want." And it's like, "No, we can't."
No, because
yeah,
we're not assholes like,
Exactly. We're trying to stop the
the
lineage
cycle
of
of do what
exactly.
I say, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, because I said so does not work on my child, like, I wouldn't she'd be like, "Well, what how does that work? That's not fair," it would I'm
Like,
like,
case in
"Okay."
point, my kids would never forgive me if I left them on a bench
Yeah.
in Arizona getting sprayed on while vomiting, and to be like,
Never hear the end of that for
I'd be like,
sure.
I'd have to put them in therapy for my mom abused me, whereas for me, I was like, "Ah, it makes sense. You spent a lot of money on that.
Yeah.
I could see, me getting sick with Zinky for the other 5 of you. That makes sense." Like, even at 9, I was like, "I get it."
Yeah, it's
Sprite, I'll be fine. Some ginger ale.
Pretty much that's what happened.
it's my
And
fault for
eventually
getting
my dad
sick.
was like, "I'm really getting concerned about here. I think we should cancel our trip and go home," which we did because my mom was like, "It'll be fine."
Yeah. "Hey, you're here."
I'm just saying, like, my mom wasn't one of those like, she's not a nurse, but she was, like, almost had that nurse mentality where you're like,
Yeah.
unless you're completely dead, like, you're fine."
That's
So
funny because speaking of sort of like how parents were before, I was looking at your profile and seeing that you were not allowed to watch R-rated movies, but there was no sort of check on what books you could get out at the
Yeah.
library, and, I think about all the time, like, it was very I was allowed to watch R-rated movies, but I'm just thinking, like, overall, like, people were like, "If you're reading, it's good, like, that's good," and then I think about the content of the books, VC Andrews, and, like, all these things, and I'm like, maybe I should have had some parental constriction on those things."
Yeah, I don't think they even ever looked at the books I got from the library, and the librarians weren't telling on me, but it would be
Mhm.
like, "No, you're not allowed to watch Silence of the Lambs." It's like, "Okay, I will read the book version," and it's like a
Honestly, I don't know, you
Which is,
said
like,
for the most
10
part,
times worse,
people
yeah.
your like, teachers and people didn't care what you were reading, they just didn't believe that you were capable of reading it.
Right, because a
Yeah,
lot of times, like, it would be like, not Silence of the Lambs, but I remember when Hannibal came out, the book, I was in high school, and it was definitely like, "You're not reading that." I'm like, "Bores," and they're like, "Okay, you're reading it."
mm.
But that was definitely, like, because much earlier, like, in middle school and stuff, it was, like, Stephen King and Anne Rice and stuff, and it was just like, "You're not reading that," and they would be reading the same thing, and we'd start talking about it, and it was like, all of a sudden, like, my teachers were my friends more than, like, some of the other kids because 'cause we're
They
reading the
can
same
figure it
stuff.
out.
Yeah.
Isn't appropriate for you, Adam.
They're like, "Your parents let you read that?" And I'm like, "Yeah," and they're like, "Okay, let's
Yeah,
go ahead."
I mean, I guess I'd probably act the same way, but so so for your book that you just wrote, like, do you have any restrictions with your kids with reading? Would they be allowed to read your book?
um, so my daughter's 14. She'd be allowed to read it, like, she definitely reads. She has told me she doesn't want to read it, because she's just like, "Well, if I don't like it, I don't wanna tell you," and I'm like
Aw.
I'm like,
She
"Okay."
will like it though, it's
I
so
know.
good.
That's
Yeah,
both nice and also like, why do you think you wouldn't like it?
I know, right?
He
Like,
speaks to her, brings her on the show.
Yeah, you're crazy.
but we do have, like, our own little, like, mother-daughter book club, like, we read,
Amazing.
when because she's always been a little bit more of an advanced reader, but, like, a few years ago, we read The Hunger Games together, and,
Nice.
like, um, more recently, we've been reading the Naomi Novik, the A Deadly Education series, like, the kind of, like, darker Hogwarts type that I just love that series.
I wasn't aware of that, I'm gonna have to look that up.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Incidentally, last night, our exchange student has been pestering me to, like, watch The Hunger Games because I never did, and I didn't read the books, and I did finish the first one last night, and I absolutely loved it, and I thought about it all day, and she was right. But now I was like, "I think I'm gonna try to read the series before I watch any of the other movies because I bet it's really good."
Yeah, it's a good series. I was because I read them when they first came out, and I think they've definitely held up.
Really like
Kind of
it.
unfortunately, they're mirroring real life more than
That's
we would
what
expect.
she goes because last night, the number of times I saw, like, Stanley Tucci's character, but all like, whoever what is it? Not the president, but, like, the guy right underneath the bed that I was like, "He looks like Don Jr." Kept saying, "How many times are you gonna point out Trump references as we're watching?" I'm sorry, somebody said it on, Instagram, and now I can't unsee it, like, it is paralleling them.
I almost wish it was more fantastical now because 'cause I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, this is plausible." It seems a little too close for comfort.
Yeah, really, you're like, it's uncomfortable how close
Mhm.
it is, actually.
Hmm.
I could genuinely it's like, "Oh,
Well, what was the
oh, for hope," and it's like, "Yeah."
wasn't there some kind of, like, weird, like, Olympic style kids, like, games that were supposed to be happening, like, that were I don't know if you remember this, but some kind of sports thing
Is
with,
this
like
the
no, 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 this is I'll link
No.
it.
in this administration?
Yeah, it was gonna happen. What
Doubt it, they're having WW or,
Yeah.
UFC,
UFC fights and
Is
whatever,
it
so
the
yeah.
America Games or something? I don't know.
Yes!
I heard something about it. It sounded
okay.
absurd.
Yeah, and it's like that will slowly evolve, it will, into, like, some sort of blood sport, kinda thing, so but
God.
absolutely, yeah.
Well,
Let's
it's
keep
just
it cheery here, guys, come on.
well, no, I love the
That
I always said, like, probably one of the few things that could disappoint me would be if my kid wasn't a reader, so I'm really relieved that she loves reading.
I know, it's like you don't wanna be, like, heavy-handed with it, but it's like, "Hey, I think you might like this book if you" like
I feel like anything I recommend to Annabelle, she's like, "No," but you've gotten her to read several of, like,
Yeah,
Collie's, and
she likes a good slasher.
she would love this book.
Oh, yeah, she'll be reading this book,
I mean, this is to me is I remember talking to Will. I mean, I could probably pull up our conversations from the
Mhm.
creature, but I was just like, this book is incredible. Like I had so much fun reading it because while it's grotesque and it's scary and whatever, it is a real thriller. It is so good.
And honestly, like, again, I won't have any spoilers, but there was a couple moments towards the end of this book that were so freaking emotional to me, like, involving the
Right?
very ending that, like, brought everything together so
Oh, she did.
beautifully, like, that I
Yes.
was really
So
and
good.
actually, like, for some people, it might be a small moment, but anyone that has had because I really related to this idea of, like, the cousins that are so much cooler than you that you desperately wanna hang out with, but don't wanna hang out with you a lot of times, or you don't see them very often. Like, there's a moment where Audrey is with her grandmother, and I think they're camping or they're out, like, in the woods or something like that, and they invite Mara, and Mara's like, "No, that sounds kinda boring, maybe next time." And, like, I felt like Audrey and Shirley's hearts broke a little bit during that, and I just felt that so deeply. I was like, "That's such a small moment, but so emotionally real."
No, I've never been the person who's like, "Nah, maybe later." I'm always the one, like, feeling like Audrey and Shirley there.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. There you go. I feel like when people sometimes I'm out with people at the bookstore, they're like, I love a Freedom McFadden, and I okay, no, that's fine. Okay, but if you've not read any of these other people that can really write a hell of a twist, you're one of them. You're very good at writing it. Very good. It's like if you
And it's a layered twist,
exactly,
because
exactly. Yes, it
there's
is.
so much going on with, the kind of reveal, as you wanna call it.
I just have a deep appreciation for how, like Adam had said before, how each character is so well rounded. Like you know exactly when Mara is talking and Audrey, you know it's the same body. Like you can feel them distinctly.
Mhm.
How we've talked about all these different things, and yet it all works together, all the traumas, all the history of the place and the town and everything. But then, it just you are able to sometimes you're just like, was that even, there's books I've read, like I can think of one by Sarah Pierce. Like I really liked the book the majority of the time when it was the sanatorium. But then I was like, that wasn't earned. Like that it could have never been that person. And like
Mhm.
you everything that you wrote, it's like this is earned, it makes sense, you've developed it well. And I just feel like that's something when I invest time in a book, that's what I want.
Yeah, and I'm always interested, especially in a book like this where it is, kind of finding out what happened or who it was responsible is central. Like, do you allow like, are you someone that organically comes about, or as you're beginning the story and, the characters and the town are coming together, did you know from the beginning, like, where that was gonna end up?
Hmm. You know, there I think it's changed a lot from the first draft. So I had an idea. Initially I was going to keep, trying without having spoilers, one of the elements of it, I was going to keep it more ambiguous.
Mm,
And then I found it like with my first readers, it was too ambiguous
okay.
because so I'm like, okay, this is so I definitely changed the ending a lot more just to be like, "Okay, this is what's in my head." There, I'm like, because I'm always imagining extra layers on things, and I forget that, when you're reading a book, maybe you're not like me and you're not imagining your own layers, so someone has to tell you what they actually intended. So the first draft was very different, but it was somewhat open, and I toyed with other ideas, but I think for the most part, I knew where it was going to go.
Okay. I think I can probably have an idea what you're, like, hinting at, and anybody that has read the book, I would imagine that you could too, but that's very fascinating to hear that. Yeah, because, again, there is layers to sort of, like, what happens at the end of this book, and that's one of the things that I think really makes it stand out from other books where you're trying to find a murderer, because there's so much more than just that in
Mhm,
this one, and I
mhm.
love that.
That's why I feel like I walked away just feeling it. You know how you say like, "Oh, I remember every detail of the book." It's like, but then there's times we just walk away with vibes. That shit just like it
Yeah.
was so. And you're right. Like it did what you wanted a book to do.
Yeah, and I think sometimes, like, I've read books, with epilogues and different things like that, and you're kinda like, "Whatever," the story is over, whatever. But, like, with this book, definitely, and again, no spoilers as to who's there at the end, but, these are characters that I would love to learn more about, and, like,
I was just gonna say, do you
and I
think
think
you could
that's
do a
the
sequel?
well, I think it's just I think that stands to the power of it that I would love these characters in a non-thriller, non-horror aspect. Like, I think that they're
There's
such, like,
there's a
living,
lot of
breathing
grief and
people
yeah, exactly.
that I would be interested to see what happens with them afterwards, and I think that that's, like, to me, like, that's when a book is has been written really well.
Yes. Let her work her creosote plan into this.
Yes, exactly.
I definitely wouldn't put them in another horror. They've been through so much.
Absolutely.
Maybe a romance, who knows?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Um, but no, I definitely agree with you, Autumn, like, I kept like, I wanted more, but I'm gonna go out on a limb here and imagine you're a pretty good person that wraps presents really well because you know how to wrap some shit up.
Yeah. You know, my present skills aren't that great, but I do like puzzles, and if I'm missing, like, a strand or something, it's gonna drive me crazy for, like, to an absurd amount. Like, I have a cat that steals puzzle pieces, so, like, I literally
Oh,
won't do puzzles because of this. It just
thank you for
irritates me.
understanding.
If
Oh my
you
god.
look at our Instagram, we have a post where we just talked about our cat, and you'll see there's a picture of him just laid out in the middle of puzzle pieces that he just totally ruined the ability to do that puzzle because of how many he just knocked, and then he knocks into the ground, and then the
And then
dogs
our
eat them.
corgi licks it,
Yeah.
and then they get all, like, bored. Yeah,
Yeah.
I even like, I just and I think because my arms catch it or whatever, because even when I tried using, like, the trays and stuff to keep it safe, like, it's still the same issue.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I could see your mind working like that, like, that
Mhm.
makes sense that you're a really good puzzler. I was trying to think of, like, she's probably really good at precision, something that
Yeah.
requires, like, when you have you're wrapping something, you have to calculate and measure, and you're thinking a lot, and, like, that's probably more what it is the puzzle. You really I just think that's a really underrated or a difficult skill for me to find in an author, and it makes me really be like a loyal reader. The
Mhm.
next time they put something out, like, I'm definitely gonna check that out because they I felt like the entire story was earned.
Yeah,
Think
definitely.
So with
yeah,
that
I I get so if I read a book and even if it's a small thread, it irritates me. So
right?
I have to I might tie it up a little too nicely, but I'm like, I can't I will be thinking about it later and be like, "Did I miss it? Do I need to reread this book to find out this, like, what the neighbor wanted? It felt
No,
important. Why isn't there?"
yeah, I completely agree with you. Like, and I'm always like, okay, was that necessary? And I think that's where sometimes I just have such respect for an editor because that's really hard of, did this is someone else gonna relate to this or are they gonna see this as an unnecessary threat? It's just like, is that net like the filler? Is it required? And I think that's why I really do like the concept of a novella because I think there's not a lot of like unnecessary tangents and things. It usually is again just wrapped up really well because it is a more concise vehicle to deliver the story.
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, so My Lips, Her Voice has been out just about 6 months now. So I always love when a book has been out for a little bit. What are you feeling like at this point? Like the reception? And then also, like, what's something that you either love to talk about that always comes up when you're talking about the book, or something that doesn't come up very much that you wish did?
Hmm, good questions. Well, Tucson's a very literary town. People outside of here might not realize that, but we have like one of the biggest book festivals in the country. But one of the big things that happened for my book is very local, but there's an organization called the Tucson Tome Gnome where they will pick a book every month and then they hide the book all over town and put clues on Instagram, and they chose my book, and I've been following them for years, and I've, like, found a book before, and that was, like, the biggest thing for me. I'm like, "The gnomes picked me."
That is incredible. What an accolade,
That's
right?
such a full circle moment, I'm sure. That's so cool.
It's like, fuck a Stoker, man. I got a gnome.
Right? Like, they put my books all over town, and I got to see pictures of it in different places, and it's a scavenger hunt, and, I was at a book event later, and someone's like, "Oh, that was the tome book. I almost got one, but someone got it before me," and I'm just like and so that was, like, a cool connection. I'm
No,
like,
it's awesome.
yeah.
I mean, to me, that is, I didn't know that it was that much of a literary town, but know that you guys are like grassrootsing, like authors, and then just the community aspect. I feel like that's such a goal of ours is to just feel like books shouldn't just be so solitary, or
Mhm.
the quiet library, right? It
Yeah.
should really be shared and enjoyed. And that feels like that's what you got. You just got the whole community support.
I mean, it's a really great community. We have a lot of independent bookstores,
Adam,
like,
why aren't you taking me here yet?
Sorry.
Okay.
We haven't
Everything that
had this conversation yet. Now we know.
I will
you
plan
just
your
told me.
itinerary.
Now we're gonna have a marriage flight after.
No,
Just
not
kidding.
if
I'm just
no, we're
kidding.
on the
I'm just
way.
kidding.
We're booking the flights.
That's perfect. Like, oh my god, that sounds like our dream town. But
Mhm.
like, except the dry heat, I'm gonna have to prepare for that.
I like to stay inside, so
Yeah.
I'm okay
Okay,
with
that's all
that.
right too. But
Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, oh, that's how many would you say you have? Like, I just feel like ours are so spread out. We have them, but I mean, I'm gonna have to drive like an hour each time to get.
Depending on it, yeah,
Yeah.
besides a couple.
Well, let's see, for Independent Bookstore Day,
Yeah.
that was recent. They actually did I have a postcard. They did like a trip where you could go to every like bookstore and
Hmm.
then win a prize.
Right.
And on my postcard, there are 9 bookstores that were participating. So, I only got to 3 bookstores that day, but so we have quite a few. One of my
See,
favorite.
we had a lot on our, like, our passports for that, but like I said, they're all, like, an hour
Yeah, not
out,
like
so
all
you
in one
can't just,
town, right?
like
Yeah.
yeah, because even, like, we were in downtown we drove an hour and a half to go to the Forge bookstore, and then we wanted to go to Philadelphia, which was another 52 minutes,
Yeah.
and they were
Wow.
all the same card.
Yeah, that is a big spread.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking from the north, there's probably about if you went from one end of I'm looking at my little postcard map, if you went from the north side one to, like, the one on the south side, there's probably max an hour, but there's bookstores on the way.
Sounds perfect, so I can, like, just get my iced coffee, get
Yeah.
our energy drink, just
Mhm.
lock in for the day. What are we getting where?
Yeah, and then quite a few of them have their own coffee shops inside, so you can.
Refill. That's
Yeah.
awesome. I love that.
Stay caffeinated, stay literate. I love it.
Well, and now I'm gonna say you guys should, in next March, hopefully it won't be as warm. Usually March is nice, but you should apply to be moderators at the book festival, and then you'll meet
Ooh,
all the authors, and you'll get to, tour the town and go to the book author party afterwards. It'll be fun.
that sounds absolutely
Can
amazing.
hardly
Yeah,
talk, and
definitely,
you
yeah.
left me
Would be
speechless.
so fun.
Yeah.
So,
My jaw
absolutely.
is dropped.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to do what we gotta do to try to do that. But what is in your future? Are you working on anything? Have things in the cards? Anything that you can speak of or hint at?
So I have a project that's out there and hopefully someone, scoops it up. It's like a fun dystopian one, but maybe it's a little too close to home right now, but so yeah, I know. I'm like, but and then right now I'm having a lot of fun kind of writing in the same universe as Copper City,
Yeah.
but in the 1880s. It's a weird Western horror.
Love that.
Which I think I confused my dad when I told him I was writing like, he just heard the Western part because he's, like,
Yeah.
Ah,
loves Louis L'Amour and all this stuff, and I'm like so he's gonna be confused when that.
You'd be like,
well,
"Sure, it's exactly like that."
like Loyola more if he was homicidal.
Right, yeah, it'll be fine. So he's really stoked, but because he just heard Western, so he thinks I'm writing Lonesome Dove or something, but,
Yeah.
we'll
Yeah,
we'll see.
that's awesome.
Love a horror western and, that excited for that, and the dystopian, I'm all about that too. We're all about
Absolutely.
reflecting society on this
Yep.
show too, so definitely will be on the lookout for those, and hopefully you will rejoin us to talk about either of those projects when they are out there for people to read. But this was wonderful. We're so excited
Yeah.
to champion this book and hopefully find some even more readers for it. Where can anyone find you online, socials, all that kind of stuff?
I mainly hang out on Instagram. I'm at LL Madrid Writes. That's also my website name is just LL Madrid Writes. And, I love meeting readers and talk. So it's like, feel free to, I'll probably regret saying this, but slide into my DMs. I love talking to people.
That's awesome.
Non-creepers,
Yeah,
Yeah.
please.
yeah. I like asking if you have any swag that you're passing out at these locations.
I do have bookmarks and I bought like a bunch of little plastic ghosts that I was handing out so people could be haunted. And then I've gotten now 2 ghosts have been given to me. So I'm like doing a ghost swap. Like I don't know how I started this, but somebody knit me a ghost and it's like the most amazing thing I've ever seen.
How cool is
Oh my
that?
god. I have to send you a little picture then, but I have this little I have 2 special ghost things. One,
Yes.
our friend Fernando painted this little ghost picture and he's just like flying a little like and then the other one is I got this at a book convention and it says it's like a ghosty figurine and he's holding a sign that says we'll work for books.
Oh, that's
It
so
is
cute.
cool.
I will and I do,
Yes, absolutely.
right?
So, love that.
We tolerate this capitalistic society so I can read books.
Yep.
So it was a pleasure. We loved having you on. And honestly, anybody who it's been out for 6 months, you really got to check it out. You will not be disappointed. It is just one of those reads. Like I said, it's delicious. You'll be like, this is exactly what I was looking for. If you've been in a book slump, if you need
Mhm.
to scratch an itch, it is one that it's just, it's one that I would recommend to someone that's like, I don't really like reading. It's like,
Yeah,
read this
and I'll
and
have
then
to
shut up.
say it it is a really well performed audiobook too. Anyone that prefers that medium as well, it is done really, really well, and it's a probably a difficult one because of the way that it works with especially with Mara and Audrey, the way they did the voices for that, like, is so good.
Thank you both so much. This has been a blast.
Yeah, we had a great time. Thanks so
Yes,
much. I wish
yep.
you a good night.
You as well.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.